Welcome to DAO Day for the 9th of December. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which we all meet, and I'm joining again from Wurundjeri land today. I'd like also to extend our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Our Lo-Fi DAO values and beliefs are worthy of restatement every week, and those are that we have respect, reciprocity, integrity, and kindness while doing things differently and appreciating that time is our most precious resource. And finally, that you're being recorded today. So if you have any issue now or subsequently, please contact JP at lawfidao.com so that we can manage those edits. So today is a short agenda and then open for community discussion. The progress over the past week has been focused on the membership token. We've had some more responses through the Discord to say whether people are supportive or not of a basic membership token experiment. Roy from Pellar Technology, one of our members, and I have had a couple of chats now about the token design. So he's busy working away on that. And Vic, who has just joined us, has been producing some of the membership token artwork, which is so cool. And I can't wait for everybody to see it. Vic has done an amazing job. And go, do you want to talk about it, Vic?
No, thanks, Joni. You're very sweet.
Very humble of you. But look out for it because I'm really loving the design, and shout out to Bibi Barber, who is our First Nations artwork contributor, and her artwork has been incorporated into the membership token design. So work continues on that, and we'll provide most of the updates through Discord and email. So an email has gone out to members asking them to complete a form, and that form will allow us to issue the actual NFT membership token to your wallet address. And it asks you, if you feel comfortable to do so, to list your attributes. I gave an example of some of mine in the form, which is woman, lawyer, Web3 lawyer, traveled to between 5 and 10 countries. Just, some things about my career, some things about my background, just for the purposes of the experiment to see, once we do some dummy or experimental votes, how we can query that data to see the representation of our membership and what perspectives they are bringing to their vote. So the search query that I've been going back and forth with Roy is for us to query both during a vote to see the spread of representation, as well as after the vote, and be able to do some analytics on where we need to do more targeting and signaling to show that we are supportive of a diverse and inclusive membership base. Now, you would all know that we have closed our membership for 2022, and that is mostly due to regulatory reasons, trying to get some certainty on our structure. And I'll come back to that in a second with reference to Andrew's proposal of workshops. But I don't think that we will have clarity on our structure going forward until we complete that series of workshops, and probably move to something like a public company limited by guarantee with not-for-profit clauses that gives us and our members that crucial limited liability protection, and takes us away from being an unincorporated association. So there are some trade-offs. We lose some of our freedoms. We lose some of our ability to, provide our membership application under pseudonym, for example. But these are all the trade-offs that we'll have to go through in the workshops. So the membership token has really been the focus of what my efforts have been over this past week or so. And I'm still hopeful that we will have that issued to the members this side of the year. We've had 10 responses or so back on the type form for the 34 odd members that we had. So I'll do another drive to push more responses in that regard and try to get more of our membership base participating in that. And the other small piece of news is that I applied to register LawFi DAO as our business name with the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, and was a bit terrified to see that that name needed to go to manual review. I don't know whether it was because it had DAO in the name or law, could be a number of reasons, but the day after we got the confirmation that we can in fact use that name in Australia for the purposes of trade. So that's a little bit of good news, and yeah, the confirmation notice is posted in Discord. Just going back to some of the requests from earlier weeks, I have now created a channel that is member news. So that will be open to everybody in Discord at the moment. Eventually, the idea is that it will be closed so that just members can see it, and it means that they don't need to be checking their email if they rely on Discord as their venue for notices around LawFi DAO. But it's just about me going back to 1 July 2022 really, and reposting those in chronological order so that people can follow what the updates to members have been through email. If, for example, they haven't been a member and they want to get the inside knowledge and the communications that have been going to members that haven't necessarily made their way into Discord yet. So, and the focus for the week ahead continues to be mainly around the membership token and getting that experiment up and going, and maybe a few fun little test votes if we can before the end of the year. And I have deployed the splits contract to, that's one of the things that we were going to potentially use in our pay to rely protocol. But I've just deployed it and set the parameters that LawFi DAO gets 70% of revenue and Bedazzle gets 30%, because I'm proposing to write the blog as a mirror NFT to set as a collection, and to see whether in setting that collection I can enter the splitting address to sort of prove out in the release of our first blog how easy it is for people to engage with paying for access to something that they want to read, and also seeing how that revenue split finds its way into the LawFi DAO treasury. And, I'm proposing to do 0.001 ETH, something very small for each person that wants to pay, but that also helps us to do a little bit of micro fundraising for LawFi DAO, and defray tiny bit of gas costs for me in Bedazzle by minting that the NFT blog, which we're all expecting by the end of the year, just as the first 6-month wrap up on LawFi DAO. So that's all of the official updates from me. There's a little bit of pay to rely work that Vic and I are doing to keep the law profession bodies up to date and sort of refocus the communications into early next year. And I just hand, I think, quickly to Andrew again. I've received the email proposal and sort of the campaign that will go out to members who want to put their hand up to actively contribute in these workshops. Andrew gave a more detailed overview last week, but ahead of us sending that out, Andrew, did you want to make any further comments for the sake of people here in the recording?
Yep, sure. I think, thanks, Joni. So what we've been talking about is how with the experiment that is LawFi DAO, it is an excellent opportunity for us to bring our Multilateral Group exemplar DAO digital design model for the organisation to the table as part of an experiment, and take interested parties through that process, through a series of workshops. And what it's designed to do is it's around about how to take a holistic approach to what we do and how the DAO evolves and how the blueprint business design of it, or purpose design and all those elements, takes a multi-perspective view. So it's not only about the token minting or the purposes or any of these pieces. It's actually building a framework that that looks at purpose definition, is modelled on regulatory and functional equivalence, which is what we're looking to try and do. And some of the feedback that we've had from ASIC in that area is try and work with stuff that already exists, which we kind of know, and that's where we're at the moment. So, but what does that look like when we have multi-purposes within the organisation that actually sit across different regulatory bodies? So a non-for-profit might have a different area when we're looking in that education piece to when we're trying to develop up the pay to rely. So how do all those pieces work? How do we work in an operating system that is evidence-based, that attributes the allocation and value of people's input, their experience, all the different areas that they bring to it? How does the membership types evolve? What do they look like in terms of what are the associated rights? What are the associated liabilities and obligations? What interaction does that have from an insurance perspective? What effect does it have in terms of somebody's attribution and allocation of benefits? So all of those pieces, and where centralisation is necessary to meet the regulatory equivalence of operating in a jurisdiction, as distinct from the authorities and delegations and voting systems that can work for the individual members, and where they have can put in a say. So it's quite a complex program, and hence the workshops. What we're looking to do is a recruitment drive to pull together. It'd be great to have maybe half a dozen members that bring specific skill sets and industry experience in certain disciplines into the group, and then everything else can build out from that. We're talking about how observatory we make that as well. So the whole piece around LawFi DAO is an experiment that we're looking with its education hat on to take people through some of the grisly detail and some of the challenges to get there. So I think the observation piece is important as well, but we haven't talked that through in detail yet as what that looks like. But that's certainly on the table. And effectively what we're looking to get out of that is building a design model that gives us an operational framework. So we talked many weeks ago about the fact that there are no operating standards for DAOs anywhere, quite apart from any of the other infrastructure that is not really there, including legislation. So we believe that what we can build out of this, and we've certainly done all the architectural work behind the scenes on this, is develop an operating model that will evolve over time, but gives a good strength of structure to how we go about doing things, and helps inform the sequence that we do things as well. And then when we look at some of the key challenges of insurance being one, for example, or Alex, how we put together a ledger system that on one hand gives the attributes of benefit to contributors, on the other side also assesses the liabilities and obligations and things like that. So they're the component parts in a high level of what we're looking to do. And what we're proposing to do with this is to knock it out over 3 weeks in a row. January is obviously problematic, as we can see today. We haven't got everybody on the call. Australia Day happens to fall on a Thursday, so I don't think starting on Friday the 27th of January makes any sense. So essentially, we're saying let's start on the first Friday in February, which is the 3rd. Over the course of the 3 weeks, there'll be 90-minute sessions, workshop sessions. There'll be some homework ahead of time, and obviously we'll develop things like the agendas and frameworks and things ahead, so people know what to expect going into the workshops. But we want to take out of that by the end of February, we have a robust plan that we can take to members and move forth from that. So as the input document, the current white paper will be a good input document to start with, and it will evolve through the process.
And a big thank you to you and all the Multilateral team for putting your heads together to come up with that series of workshops. I think you'll all, when you receive the email and take a read through it, I'm really excited to go through the program. So thanks, Andrew, and everybody over there. Before I open up to community discussion, I did just want to say, and forgive me for not addressing this earlier, I have had some verbal feedback from ASIC about our presentation a few weeks ago now, and it's quite high level feedback, but it's really just emphasis on how we can possibly use existing legal structures to conduct our DAO. So I take that as both a positive and a negative, that they are supportive of the innovation happening, but within a container of the existing legal entities that they understand. And there's still a lot of education that we need to go through as to why those existing legal containers aren't fit for purpose. So that is definitely the work ahead of us for 2023 and future years. All right, well, and welcome, Arturo. I see that you've joined us. I love having you on these calls.
Hey guys, sorry I'm a bit late.
Hi, Arturo.
No, welcome. We know mornings are not your favorite thing, so it's always good when Arturo can join the call. Before I just get into some general topics or whatever is on your mind, also want to throw a welcome to a new friend of LawFi DAO, Alex Green, who is a friend of Rick Shaw, here with a level of insurance expertise. And just before we opened official proceedings this morning, Greg and I were shooting the breeze on when we should have our community call and how we should have it. You know, Eventbrite is a bit of friction, but it was there so that people could actively say, I am going to attend this week, rather than just having that Zoom calendar invite in the diary each week. So, Greg, did you want to kick off and just say what your initial thoughts were, and then open to the group as to whether it's better to have it late afternoon, so that the Northern Hemisphere can join us, or what are your thoughts?
Timing wise, I'm not really sure. It's always hard to get a time that works for everyone, right? I mean, ultimately the Eventbrite stuff is just, it's a little bit fumbly, like in terms of I've been on my phone a few times, and it's hard to find the Zoom invite, I find sometimes, if I'm on my phone. So it's probably because I use multiple email addresses as well, but you could probably just do a regular Zoom link that's the same every week, which means that you won't have the burden of getting all those Eventbrite emails. But I just didn't know whether you were doing it from a sense of trying to capture, you know, who was on which call with which date. So I mean, it could be as basic as just a regular Zoom link that's the same one each and every week that people can join. You might want to put like an access code on that though, in case people are jumping in. But there's probably a few other ways. I mean, I can look into that before next week.
Yeah, cool. And Arturo, how are you guys doing it at Oz DeFi Association? I mean, you have a lot of in-person things going on, but do you have internal things where people can opt to join regular calls?
No, we only do our things. We actually don't need to be honest, because we have the Discord, which has a pretty strong presence, and it's kind of active 24/7, and then we have the monthly meetups. So we don't really have need for this kind of stuff, to be honest. If we're thinking about how attendance and so forth, like we had a Cryptomas party 2 days ago,
which I'm still recovering from. And that was, I think we had north of 100 people there. So people are still pretty in there. Another interesting thing to mention is that we at Not Centralized partnered up with Stone and Chalk to deliver, let's call it a Web3 accelerator together with them. So it's really about giving the structure in terms of acceleration that Stone and Chalk has to the AusDeFi community. And I think that press release is coming out today or early next week. So right there, we're going to have access to like 600 startups that don't know anything about Web3. And I think could really, really benefit from the multiple facets that we as a community can deliver. So that's really exciting. And I hope that everybody can kind of jump in and help out there, because it's a big opportunity.
That's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a bit windy here, so just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no, all good. Well, put myself on mute. I might just go to you. What are your impressions of what would be an easier experience, and have you got any insights to share on what you've learned about LawFi DAO so far?
Sorry, is that me?
No, Alex.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I missed the Alex bit, which was quite relevant to who was going to answer the question, I suppose.
Yeah.
What am I finding?
We all need our coffees this morning. It's okay.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I think the first things that we've been looking at are what are the real world issues that are being faced today by participants in associations, whether it's blockchain, I guess it's, similar to Arturo's kind of DeFi association, whatever else. But I guess it's like being unbanked and things like that. The issue is, can people get the cover they need to run the businesses today, rather than can we, insure DAOs, and can we do this and can we do that? So I think there's this kind of what's being built thing and the risks associated with that. And then there's the businesses and the people and the activity today. So we're kind of, I guess, starting to crawl before we can walk and understand what the today's real world challenges, barriers are, and look at how we can help solve those. But at the same time, keep an eye on the emerging challenges for the space, including, as you've just talked about, even getting it registered, even trying to use existing processes and so forth. So one of the things I started thinking about as soon as I sort of read the first bits, pieces, and about the DAO, the LawFi DAO stuff, was the white collar, the professional services type stuff for directors and officers, and then management liability for small companies, sort of developed into an association's liability policy. And there are all sorts of other kind of cut down version trustees, super fund trustees policies and so forth that are quite tailored and limited and adjusted to respond to the registration requirements. So for example, there are nominated formal positions that have to be maintained and obligations on them within regulations, so around secretarial sort of responsibilities and so forth. So the policies are designed around what the regulatory or license or registration requirements are, and then protects those people for the liabilities that might sort of arise from it. And I suppose I was kind of thinking, well, can we get ahead of that on the DAO side of it to actually ask the question more philosophically, not what's the government going to do and how we respond, but what are the liabilities that might arise out of group decision making? And like one of the things that came into my mind was when there's a vote by the members of the, I'm not sure. Sorry, forgive me for getting the terminology wrong.
DAO members, yeah.
But when there's, however it's driven from a representation of tokens or this or that or whatever the rules are within the thing, when a vote's taken, what happens if it's not a legal vote? What happens if it says, yes, let's kill them, right? Or, let's do this or let's do that. And it can be a vote, but it almost has to have got to a point where it's determined that they're reasonable outcomes that don't have a liability consequence or exposure or criminal one or whatever else, because there's this whole, that's kind of one issue for me. It's like, you know, how that might work and what might come out of that. The other is this whole concept in directors and officers that you know, we can sue an individual, we can name a person, who has a role. But then there's this movement towards suing an entity, and there's this creation of this entity cover and side C sort of tower or limit or protection that exists in directors and officers insurance. And I was kind of thinking, you know, at what point how do we solve this issue of, you know, if it's the AI doing some stuff with smart contracts, or, you know, like, is that an IT failure, or was it the design of the decision-making process in the first place, and who's responsible for that? And look, don't get me wrong, it's not just DAOs these issues are being sort of factored into. They're actually, for those that have really given any thought to autonomous vehicles, right? You know, if an autonomous vehicle is involved in an accident, who do you sue? Like, is it the owner of the car? Is it the person that designed the chip? Has someone modified it? Like, what is it? The sensors? Like, why did it fail, and who's liable? And insurance companies are sort of struggling with this, because it was easy to point to the person who was in the driver's seat. Traditionally, that's always been the starting point. And now they're kind of saying, well, you know, how's that going to be managed? Now, I think there's quite a lot of parallels between that, AI, technology, DAOs, you know, yeah. So I don't know. You asked for my thoughts. I don't know whether that's kind of interesting or just filled in some time, but
no.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and we've got a lot of discussions ahead of us on, you know, what are the activities of our DAO, what are the risks, how can we ensure them. So look forward to a lot of those discussions happening into the next year. So yeah, very, very important. And as an unincorporated association, we don't have association liability insurance at the moment, because it's hard to prepare the brief of what we're going to be doing into the next year. The approach, because the white paper wasn't passed at the general meeting, is just to piecemeal propose experimental activities that are drawn from the white paper.
So,
or
if
low
you just
tech,
studied knocks at
using
doors,
the eyes. Yeah,
you've got fantastic
using the eyes
hearing.
and looking out the window.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like 3 fat knuckles making contact with.
Yep.
Oh gosh, sorry for that distraction. I'll edit that out of the recording.
No, it was good. It was good.
Alex, that piece that you just articulated around some of the issues around insurance are exactly the things that will flesh out in these workshops, and why it's so important to have the different subject matter experts in the room in this, because each of us have the area that we work in on a daily basis, and that tends to be where the focus is. What our role as multilateral is to look at how all of those pieces coordinate and come together, and where all the different elements all help each other, and where do you put those sum of the parts to make it work. And so a lot of the things you just talked about there are bigger solvable problems that do step outside of the DAO remit, but also have applications across a whole heap of other things that will tend to, at some point, come back into an ecosystem, and you need to be aware of all the externals as well as the internals. So thanks for putting that stuff on the table.
But if I could just come back to one detailed point, is that who should be liable and what went wrong. That's what I'm really hoping to get out of Andrew's process, or the Multilateral Group process, when we say, what would each person do, and what's the evidence base? Because if you take an evidence-based approach for each time that you do something, then we can say, at the time that the code was being developed, you know, it was Joni, you know, as representative of Bedazzle, and Roy as representative of Pellar Technology, that were coming up with the initial design, you know, doing experiments, and then some more members were involved in the testing. Then as another step, we bring on an independent third party as a smart contract auditor to make sure, you know, or to highlight what the security vulnerabilities are of that membership token. You know, that's the technology that we're bringing into the world in this first experiment. And so it's trying to get that some sort of equivalence and putting the documents in place, or some sort of evidence in place as we go along to say who was involved, what did they do, and did they try to protect the people involved in use of that technology, whether they be members or other people. And that really comes down to things that we think are best practice at the moment, but not set down in legal frameworks yet. But the Koala DAO model law, COALA, that is a group of authors that have come together to say, what are the basic things that a DAO does need to do to be equivalent to the protections that mainly the Corporations Act tries to protect? And if they do these things, that gives them the thin basis for legal recognition, for legal liability, and to enter into legal contracts. But it doesn't seek to regulate them if they're offering financial services. They still have to comply with existing financial services laws. And that's why we say financial services laws perhaps have to be modified for the nuances of the technology. So there's a few things yet to go, but in us going through that process, I think it helps with, you know, policymakers, regulators, understanding of, you know, for example, Koala DAO model law approach, what our experience might be, and then how that translates into fit for purpose law, and then insurance schemes around it.
So I don't know. I'm sorry to interrupt. I should kind of hold back, but it does occur to me that it's a lot easier to solve problems and create new approaches when the principles are set down and clear and you're complying with. The hardest thing to do is to replicate particular functions. So I think what you said before about you know, you can put stuff into a DAO and smart contracts, but then the wording in the regulations might say, for example, the responsible manager, or the this or the that, which is is an alien concept. So I think it's understanding in the regulations, and maybe this will help government too, to actually establish what the specific documented requirements are, but what principles they're actually linked into. So, for example, the principle here might be that there's appropriate oversight and someone who can be held accountable, for example, right? And then you can actually say in the DAO's situation, this is the responsible person and the person that will be held accountable. So when you require this is how that translates into this world, and it can be mapped out so that then they're clear about what was required in the first place. And they go, actually, that's not why we put that in there. We put that in there for this purpose. And then you can say, okay, well, we can address it like this. So and it's only when you tie it back to the principles and the reasons. Otherwise, you get caught up in a debate saying, well, you need to create a responsible manager node in your DAO that does this, because then you're falling into the trap of replicating the real world, or compromising your structure or position around this when that's not what it's designed to do in the first place. So there you go. There's a thought.
Exactly. I just want to put that up in lights, because we don't want to import the existing things that have arisen because of the need for oversight on humans with centralization and others that rely on them performing their jobs properly, when we know that the technology can do that job, but there are different risks introduced by autonomously operating technology. Perfect. Yeah. Vic, I know you've got a lot to say on this point. Are you in a position to chat or offer any insights?
I am in a position to chat. Okay. I think that I'm looking forward to the workshop in Feb. I think that's going to actually be a really important activity. The interactions with the regulators for lawyers has been interesting, and we haven't really divulged a lot of what that has been amongst the broader membership of the DAO. But it's been encouraging to see that these regulators are open to what we are doing. They want to understand, And I think, it's difficult to communicate to another group of people how, how we're different to how things are previously or are currently operating from a law firm or an incorporated law firm perspective, when we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. And I think I'm not discouraged by the activity of trying to figure it out. I mean, all startups go through that identity. It's not a crisis. It's an identity formation activity. So even if we are 6 months in, even if we are still trying to figure out what our structure is, even if we are, trying to establish what that is and what, formal structure we best fit into, that's the process, and we're learning from it. So I'm excited to actually get into the nitty-gritty of it through the workshop. So I will be participating in that for sure.
Legend. Well, any other community discussion points before I make one final announcement today?
Yeah, where are our memes? I feel like we need more memes.
Well, Luke, I think at the launch call way back said that he would be chief meme officer. But I know that he didn't make it into being a member before we closed it. So I think we need to appoint a new meme officer or seek volunteers.
I think we should definitely explore that in the workshop. And we should see the winner of the meme chief meme officer. It's a competitive activity.
Yeah, and it's such a talent, because I could try to do one and it would fail horribly. It's just that there is an art and a science to it.
No, don't discount yourself, Joni. It's I think everyone has to have a go at it.
Oh, well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe we ask everybody to have a go at their meme to describe something about Law-Fi DAO. Gosh.
On a final note for the community, touching back on the stone and chalk thing, now that I'm in a slightly better position to talk, I think that all of you guys have amazing ideas that, as we just mentioned now, are relevant not only within the crypto space, but just along the whole tech space. And I don't think that we'll ever touch a startup that is not tech enabled or tech related. So most of these questions will be very relevant for them. And I guess that the more they're out there on the fringe, which is kind of where we like being, the more relevant these questions are going to be. So yeah, please reach out and kind of keep an eye open for things happening, because I think that I'm sharing all I know. Let's put it that way. We have access to the space to get physical space within the web. Sorry, physical. Let's call it space specific for Web3 activities within all of the Stone and Chalk offices. So that's definitely Sydney, it's Melbourne, and I think it's Adelaide. I'm not entirely sure, because physical contact is actually really important when we're doing all of these different things. But from that, it's going to be a whirlwind of events and things happening, right? So yeah, I think it's really important that we all try to be there.
Yeah, and Gordon, I know, has been asking for an events channel in Law-Fi DAO, which Jules is setting up for us. So, we'd love to have all of your Oz DeFi events and, collab with Stone and Chalk things going on, posted in that events channel, so that the Law-Fi DAO community can support, or can see, first of all, what's going on, and then support where they can, wherever they are, be it Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, somewhere else. So.
Yeah, that actually leads me to Mark setting up a while back a big Excel sheet, or a web-based thing with all of the Web3 events across Australia.
Yeah.
I'll send that to you, because a lot of people are kind of putting in their various events into that.
Yeah,
so
great.
It's just a good way to know what's happening. Yeah.
We can pin it at the top of the channel. Okay, great. Any last comments? All right, silence. Well, in going through this membership token visual process with Vic, it just struck me that a community, and because we've got the Blockies Awards to look forward to next week, which is the Blockchain Australia, the peak industry body. They put on these awards every year to bring the community together and get a bit of excitement around various categories, to recognise various categories of contributors to the whole community.
So is anyone here going?
Yeah, I'll be there.
I've got a ticket.
Yay!
Arturo? Fantastic. See you
Yeah,
there.
no, we're going.
There'll be a lot that, and so I just thought I really love that and would love to import it into our mini LawFi DAO community too. So this announcement is to say that 2022, which is our formation year, will also be the start of the Creator Spirit Awards. And me being the creator spirit, I just thought it's a nice way to introduce some level of recognition for all the people who have given up their time. And the announcement on who is receiving those awards will come by email to the members, and then it'll be reflected in the Discord early next week when we have the images ready, and it'll be as a POAP. So those members and friends who receive the Creator Spirit Award will get a nice little POAP to add to their collection that shows on their membership token image. So keep an eye out for who are the winners there. And just as a thank you to all of you, and really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun so far. Challenging, but still a lot of fun. All right, with that, I'll wrap up. Have a great weekend, everybody. And next Friday, Community Call is our last one for this year. So we'll go out with a bang, bring a nice little pineapple umbrella to put in your coffee, and we'll have some fun seeing out 2023. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye.